one of the keys to developing skilled players is first and foremost understanding the concept of the Continental grip and the role it plays in developing skilled players. There are so many advantages and so many uses of the Continental grip that go beyond just the volley or the serve. We're going to talk a lot about the Continental grip, all the advantages of it, all the shots that are hit with it, and how to train the Continental grip. It should be understood that the Continental grip is such an important grip in developing a well-rounded player and a very skilled player. The Continental grip, as a lot of coaches and pros know, obviously the volley, the backhand volley, and the forehand volley all use the Continental grip for the standard conventional volley. In addition, the serve is the top level servers all use the Continental grip, but we can go beyond the serve and the volley and look at how the Continental grip also plays a very important part in a two-handed backhand, the mainstay of virtually every top backhand player today, with a few exceptions. The topspin half volley, the topspin half volley on the backhand side, forehand and backhand, as well as the overhead. A skilled overhead is not hit with an Eastern forehand grip, it's hit with a Continental grip. In addition to the volley, the overhead, the serve, we also want to recognize that the Continental grip plays a very important role in the slice approach shot, especially on the backhand side, the drop shot on both sides, the forehand and the backhand, and it is the cornerstone virtually of all the shots, with the exception of the topspin strokes I've mentioned. Now that we've found the Continental grip and everyone understands how to hold the racket, if it's an unfamiliar or uncomfortable grip, we're going to try to make that grip become more and more comfortable. And these are some of the best drills I've ever done to not only emphasize the Continental grip, but they're also great drills to be used as a daily warm-up, also to help prevent tennis elbow and to warm up the fine muscles of the hand, wrist, and forearm. Now the first of these drills is what we call down bounces. Now I've used these for 35 years. I've used them from beginners to nationally ranked players, and I'm going to show you several ways to make this simple drill more advanced. But let's talk about the down bounces and why it's such a nice drill to use to emphasize the Continental grip. Well, the first thing is make sure they have the Continental grip, and we're going to kneel down. Usually if I'm right-handed, I'm going to kneel down on my right knee. So if I'm kneeling down like this, there's an advantage to this. One is it's easier to hold and maintain the Continental grip. Now, one of the problems I see a lot of coaches and a lot of players, because kneeling down takes a little bit more effort, the player might say, well, why don't I just do it standing up? Well, the Continental grip has to be turned a little bit more down to square the racket, and players start to migrate their hand over to bounce the ball, and they start actually emphasizing the Eastern forehand grip in the process of that. So once they find the Continental grip, bringing their body down so their racket and arm are more parallel with the ground here rather than being from a standing up position at such a severe angle. Now I can do my down bounces with that grip more comfortable, or certainly not stressed to be trying to migrate that over consciously or unconsciously to the Eastern forehand grip. So the down bounces, simply, and if they're a beginner, they're going to have trouble just doing maybe 10 of these, just bouncing the ball like this. And if they're a young child, or even some adults have difficulty, if the Continental grip is uncomfortable, that's going to be a challenge. Just by doing 5 or 6 down bounces, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. There are 6 right there. But the nice thing is this offers an opportunity to create personal best opportunities. And what that means is if I got to 6, the next time I do it, I check my grip, I'm going to try for 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got to 10 that time. Kids love this. Adults love it. When they surpass their personal best, they know they're getting better. It's a great objective way to go, hey, I didn't change my grip and I got more in play. Very similar to you expand that out in a match situation where I'm trying to hit more balls in the court. I'm trying to hit more balls successfully using the grip I want to use. Now, you can take this to another level and use the feel of the hand by closing your eyes. I love this drill because it really now takes away completely the visual component and forces the player to feel. So they start here, but then close their eyes and just feel that ball bouncing. And what you'll see players do is they'll start to feel when the ball starts to move a little bit away, and their body starts to recognize the feel of that shot. This is a great advantage of mastery, of being able to feel the racket rather than just hitting a ball. You can take this to one step further using a line or a target. You can actually just put a little dot on the ground, or if there's a crack or a spot or a speck of sand or something, try to hit that spot when they're doing their down bounces. Now this forces the player to make very, very fine motor skill adjustments by trying to hit that spot every time they hit the ball. Again, teaching the fine-tuning control of the racket in a very easy, you can have 75 kids on one court doing these three drills I just described. Down bounces with the eyes closed, and now down bounces by trying to hit that little spot on the court. By doing that, you're going to find your players are suddenly becoming very familiar with the Continental grip. And not only familiar, they're becoming very competent, because the skills I just showed you really are key to being able to control that grip and becoming more comfortable with it at the same time. Moving from the backhand volley to the forehand volley. The technique is similar, but there are some differences that obviously are associated with the turn. Continental grip, we are not changing our grip, so from the backhand to the forehand, no grip change. First thing, turn. Now because the hitting shoulder is our back shoulder this time, whereas the backhand volley created the hitting arm in front of us, we don't need to turn as much. So one of the things, we don't need to be turned all the way over here. Simply pretend you're handcuffed. So as you turn, that's where you need to be. That's all there is to the turn. If I want to go more down the line, I turn a little more. More of an angle, I turn less. The elbow is not an issue, so you don't need to keep the elbow straight as we talk about with the backhand volley. The elbow is fine. We do want to tuck the elbow a little bit close to our body so the stroke is across our body and not in the roundhouse type of manner. Our turn is the same. We're going to turn to our side, not as much as the backhand, but we still have a turn. We want our left foot to be the driving leg. Our left leg is going to help keep us sideways, and again, we don't want our back foot to come around with the stroke. So that back leg stays down or kicks behind us slightly. The key position points here include the idea of keep the plane the same. So from start to finish, that racket face orientation does not change. So from here to here to here to here, it is still facing the target all the way through the stroke. It doesn't turn, it doesn't dish, and it doesn't roll. Finally, there's another phrase I really like, and that is hit and hold. Or as it applies to the volley, it's set and hold. So if I want to hit a cross-court volley, I set that racket to my target well before the ball gets there. I move to the ball to find the ball. I hit the volley with that slide underspin, and now I hold. So set, hold. That establishes a beginning and end to the stroke that allows me to create a repeatable, reliable swing path over and over, no matter where the ball is. High volley, mid volley, low volley. The only difference between those three is the low volley, you're going to bevel that racket up and add a little bit more underspin because you're going to need to get that ball over the net. The underspin allows you to slow the ball down, letting gravity bring it down. If I hit that ball flat, but on an upward angle, I really run the risk of hitting it long.
When we're talking about forehand volleys, probably one of the best volleyers in the game, certainly on the forehand side and the backhand side, is Pete Sampras. Notably, Pete was of the era that players were still serving volleying a little bit more, and he was certainly one of the best at it. So here we have Pete coming in after a serve, making a split stop. Notice how deep he is. One thing about a great volley and a great volleyer is it doesn't matter where on the court you are. So one thing as coaches and players need to realize is you don't have to rush to the net. You need to be in good balance. You need to be in good position to volley the ball. So if he's probably served his opponent out wide, so he's going to, with a pretty fast serve, he's got one of the fastest serves in the game. So he may not always get to the net. But here he is moving towards his forehand volley side to his right. He's got his Continental grip. He's going to keep a very simple move. He simply turns his upper body. That sets the racket to the angle. You notice right now we have the racket already pointed at the target. So he doesn't need to take a bigger backswing. He probably could. In fact, he might take a little bit more back than this, but he's already got the racket to the target. Now, one thing you're going to notice is his upper body. Unlike the backhand volley, we're going to see his upper body not turn quite as much, but we see his step with his left foot coming across his body. Typically with the forehand volley, we want to set that body sideways. We don't want to face the net. So you're going to see the foot stomp. Now, at this point, you're going to see a V shape here of the racket and the forearm. So coming down from the forearm and going up to the racket. And this is going to be fairly well maintained from before contact to after contact. Notice that the racket starts above the ball. So his racket is higher than the ball because he's going to add some underspin for control, to keep the ball low, and to probably kill the ball a little bit more on the other side of the court. So you're going to see that racket definitely dip from high to low. So high, cut, drive, and a little bit of a dish, which is somewhat natural from the standpoint the arm wants to move in this direction when you maintain it. But if we go back, we're going to see a very interesting thing. One is the racket face maintains the same plane from start to finish. Here he's already hit the ball. The racket's still facing somewhat to the target, although because he's cut the ball, he's going to dish the racket a little bit. I would not recommend dishing the ball. In other words, I would try to keep the racket in that same plane, right? Let's go back a little bit. Hold that racket right there and move the arm forward from here, because if you start dishing the ball, you can start getting players who will pop the ball up. Obviously, Pete, being a great volleyer, pro, he knows the timing of the stroke. He can let the arm dish out and follow through a little bit more open as the finish right there. But you notice that the racket and the arm remain very parallel. This is one thing. If you were to lay a flat sheet of metal or glass parallel with the arm and the racket, you would see that flatness from the arm to the racket maintained right there to right there to right there, and it's basically held through the entire stroke. So the arm moves from the shoulder. Again, you can't really move it from the elbow, although I guess you could bring the elbow in. But the idea is that the pivot point is the shoulder plane. The shoulder moves, allows the arm to move forward. The other thing we want to point out is how quiet the body is. Let's go back to pre-contact. Right about here. Now the body is sideways. Let's draw a line showing the shoulder plane. And notice how that shoulder plane is kind of maintained throughout the shot. From there to there. That line across his shirt has maintained the same angle roughly to before contact and after contact and well after contact. So it's just the arm that's driving forward. This is not an angular shot. It is not a rotational shot. So we're not trying to rotate like we would a ground stroke. We're trying to maintain a stroke that stays in line with the desired target. And to do that, we need to keep our body somewhat quiet, somewhat sideways. And you can see that being held with the front foot, the left foot driving forward. The other thing is to look at the back toe. Much like we saw with the volley or the backhand, two-handed backhand, as a player moves, if the idea is to keep the body quiet, we need to keep that back foot back. So before contact, past contact, that toe is still down. Now he can bring it around as a break step or to recover step right there. Of course, he's hit a winner, so he's already won the point. He's not really feeling like he has to recover a whole heck of a lot here. But that is the idea that players need to remember when they get that left foot in front, that back foot needs to stay back long enough that the contact phase can be completed before that leg releases to the front.